welcome everybody. This is our second blab, 2 weeks in a row, and we've got a real great speaker, guest speaker for us today. His name's Rick Beardsley. Before I go into Rick a little bit, my name is Mike Warren. I'm the president of Alternative Health Concepts, and we are going to continue these blabs once a week for now, with some good content, what's going on, the latest and greatest things in alternative health world. And that's what our kind of our mission is with Blab, to get people out there maybe or may not be familiar with alternative health, what it means to you, what it can mean to you, and or to your loved ones that may be going through something that possibly the conventional medicine isn't helping you with. And there's just some great alternatives out there, as the name denotes. So with us today is my partner, Wayne Dorban, and he's co-hosting with me today. So if I mess up, since it's only my second one, he's done a few more of these, he'll take over and run the show. That's the interesting thing about this this platform. It's brand new. I think it's about 5 months old now. But if you notice up in the corner, it's still in beta mode, and they're still making a lot of changes almost daily to it. So it's exciting. I always like to go over just a little bit of housekeeping, but there's nobody in here that doesn't know it, so I'm not going to worry about it. As we get in, we'll tell more. But obviously, you can type in your questions over and to the right, and we'll get your questions and we'll get them answered as soon as we can.
Actually, Mike, we might have somebody here, Joba, and who's joined us here, and so we'll acknowledge him or her, and if you'd like to come in at some time to ask a question, we can actually have you do that with us too.
Okay, great.
Well, Mike, why don't I kind of get started here, and okay. Actually, I'll maybe ask you a couple questions to get going.
Sure.
First, did you have a good week between last week, and did you enjoy that lab we did last week?
Yeah, I thought it turned out great. I liked it a lot. I really am enjoying this format. You know, I'm kind of becoming addicted to Blab now. I used to do a lot on Facebook and kind of mess around, but I'm learning so much. And what's really neat about this platform is I've learned all kinds of things, different things, not just health related or anything else. I've learned how to do some things on Blab in these Blabs. There's just a lot of great people out there that really are interested, and it's to me, it's like a live radio television show where people can call into the radio and be on TV at the same time. And it's cool because everybody is in it together, and that's the way this world is, isn't it? Really, we're all in this thing together, and I just love this format because it brings us all together. And I've gotten to meet some great people, and people I've never met, totally different walks of life, totally different thought processes in the way they view life, but yet it's so neat and so cool to share other people's views on different things and different topics. And that's what I really like about it. So I'm really excited about it because I believe that we're going to be able to expand this as we go on. We've already got some guests lined up, some other guests lined up that are going to be really, I don't know if it's paradigm shifting or not, but for me, some of these people are, because they've gotten me thinking in whole different directions. And that, to me, is what Blab is all about.
Awesome. By the way, we had Alex come on here just a little bit ago. It doesn't look like he's on right now, but he has 54,000 people that he's following on Blab.
Holy cow.
So he's done a few of these Blabs, that's for sure. Let's try to make use of a little bit of Rick's voice here, and we'll ask him a few questions. And I think if you didn't hear it, anybody else who's come on here, one of the things you can do, by the way, if you like what you're hearing from somebody, is you can give them props, like I was just doing with Rick down here. I was clapping for him by clicking on those two little footprints or handprints that are down there in the corner. Anyway, Rick, tell us a little bit about how you ever met up with this character, Mike Warren, here, and what's that? Where did that relationship come from?
I actually met Mike's dad first, but the first time I met Mike, he had just returned from a mission for his church, and it was shortly before he met or got reacquainted with a wonderful woman and got married. That goes back a ways. That's when I first met him. He was just a young guy, barely 21 years old, 22 years old. And I've gotten to know him very well since, and his whole family. And it's really been a great experience. Mike's a dynamic guy. He has diverse experience, and he is indefatigable. He will
Is that a new word, Rick?
So
I think I expanded everybody's vocabulary.
Yeah, indefatigable. So let's back up a little behind that then, and so it'll take you to where did you meet Herbert, Mike's dad?
Well, they used to. Herb is a well-known veterinarian with thoroughbreds, and back when they had 4 boys at home, they would go down to the Del Mar racetrack in Del Mar, California. They have an August meet, the whole month of August up to Labor Day. And they had property there on the beach, and they would take the family down for the month. And they always liked to get someone to babysit their house while they were gone. My wife and I had been married a short period of time, a couple of years, and we had a baby. And my wife's sister knew Herb and said, "Hey, I know these people that go down to Del Mar and they want somebody to babysit their house. Maybe you guys could stay there for the month of August." And I actually declined because I was afraid with a baby in the house. I was afraid of going to someone else's house and having her thrash the place. So that's how we met him. And then when I told her the story, he said, "No, you should have done it. I have 4 boys in there. There wasn't anything that was destructive. I hadn't been already destroyed."
So
that goes back a ways.
And then as you met Dr. Warren, let's take us up to where you started to talk about some potential products and things together. Give us sort of.
It was some time. We had to fast forward 20 years when we first met, and I had developed this thymic product, and Dr. Warren was looking for new things for horses and also for people. And as we got acquainted with what I was doing, he immediately saw the potential in using it for horses, particularly for exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage or bleeding. Horses, almost all horses eventually bleed on exercise. And he theorized that it was related to their immune system. And he thought that if he could boost a horse's immune system, that it would prevent that deterioration of the lung tissues and prevent them from bleeding. That's how we got started, and it's been a very, very effective product for that purpose. And of course, that was sort of an unexpected use of the product, but a very welcome one. He's done a great deal of research in horses and people ever since, and found a lot of different benefits for the product.
So you worked together with Dr. Warren there. I know he's told us this about himself. We were able to interview him last week, but tell us in those intervening 20 years from when you first met, tell us about some of his adventures sort of that you saw a little bit from a distance and even different than what Mike would see of his entrepreneurial spirit. And even if you recall it, how did he even kind of tell you, or how did you tell him about your product, and so how did that come together? Well, maybe there's even a short story there.
Well, I'd been in business for myself for a long time in the building maintenance business, and that's how he knew me. Knew my occupation. Not how he knew me, but he knew I did that for a living. And he asked me how that, when we were getting reacquainted, he asked me how that business was going. I told him I sold it and started a supplement business. It was coincident with the laws changing in 1994 on nutritional supplements. And it was a big switch from being in the building maintenance business to being in the natural health business. And it just happened to be during the same period of time that he was researching supplements for horses and for humans. So we just got into an in-depth conversation, actually in a Rexall drugstore. We knew each other, but we bumped into each other in the drugstore. And we ended up in there talking for about 2 hours. And that lit the fire under both of us to get moving in the same direction.
It's kind of interesting, you know, to not to meet in the store. That's pretty common. But then to spend another 2 hours there, rather than saying, "Hey, let's go head out to a coffee shop or whatever." You guys.
Neither one of our wives was happy when we came out of the store 2 hours later. I had an interesting conversation yesterday with a cardiologist. I just happened to be talking to, and I started into one of what has become a more common complaint lately. The last couple of years, my wife and I had the same health plan for a long time. Obviously, an inadequate plan that we paid about $350 a month for, and had a $3,500 deductible and a $5,000 annual limit on our out-of-pocket payments. And we just got our notice this year. That plan disappeared because of new law. And our new plan now, next year, it's all ramped up. Next year, it'll be $1,500 a month premium. The deductible now has gone to $7,000 per person, and a total out of pocket of just under $20,000 before the insurance company pays anything. But in complaining to the doctor, really bright woman, she said, "Well, that's only that side of it. The other side of it is you would be embarrassed to know how small the reimbursements are from that same plan." And then she told me a sentence that hit home for us, for all of us. She said, "It's a difficult situation that everyone's going to be in now for our healthcare plan, but the only way to solve it is to stay healthy." And that's why we are here, and that's why people will join us, because we need to take it upon ourselves to stay healthy, because we don't have any help or very little help if we become unhealthy. So that's where BioPro-Plus comes in. To my way of thinking, of course, I am completely biased on the subject, but I think BioPro-Plus is the single most important thing you can do to stay healthy, to keep from becoming unhealthy.
Let me just give you a little validation of your story, because people like to sometimes hear sort of secondary validations. And that is that my wife and I were going through exactly the same thing. We'd had a plan that I actually have had through United Healthcare for 10 years or something, maybe even longer. And we got a notice in November saying that your policy's coming up for renewal in January. We're not going to renew it. You have what they call a Cadillac plan. This is not what we were told in the notice, but we heard this otherwise, which means that we were getting too much benefits for the cost. And we were paying, again, it's just my wife and I, we have no pre-existing conditions, nothing that would indicate that we're, a poor risk from a liability perspective. And they said that we can't offer you coverage anymore. Here's a plan that you can get. Ours is $1,800 a month, a little lower deductible, $6,000 each, still $18,000 out of pocket before you get any real coverage. Amazing. And, again, a little older couple, obviously, we're not 25, but which means we would be of some more risk. Nobody can pay that kind of cost. So no. You're right. We have to stay healthy.
We have to stay healthy, because we're like you. We'll end up, if heaven forbid, one or either one of us becomes sick or both of us become sick, we'll spend premium plus total out of pocket just shy of $40,000 before the insurance covers anything.
You should get in the insurance business, I guess.
It'd be better. Yeah, I'd love to be able to set $40,000 a year aside for health and not use it, than to spend it before you have a third-party payer. So the best, most inexpensive way to get through is to stay healthy.
So Rick, I know we may get to the point where we lose your voice, and I want you to stay on a roll here. You were starting to get into a great segue into BioPro-Plus. And again, people love stories. So we've heard the Rexall and how you and Dr. Warren talked about how there could be a collaboration. Tell us a couple stories, weave it into why BioPro-Plus does what it does, and sort of weave it into a story or two about how it's worked for some people that have used it.
Well, BioPro-Plus is a compound of 5 biologically active thymic proteins. And those are important because the thymus gland has been described as the brain of the immune system. And the way that that brain works is to produce proteins that program blood cells to become immune cells. And without those thymus cells, in fact, 40, 50 years ago when thymus research first started, scientists demonstrated the importance of the thymus gland by removing the thymus from lab animals. And the lab animals immediately developed autoimmune diseases and also became infected through pathogen, demonstrating how important the thymus gland is. Well, as we age, our thymus ages faster than we do, really. We reach our peak thymic activity in our adolescence, and then the thymus gland begins to shrink and reduce its production of thymic proteins. Our product replaces those proteins much like insulin injections replace the function of the pancreas in a person who's diabetic. So you can restore your immunity or refresh your immunity by taking BioPro-Plus. And what it does is stimulate the CD4 and CD8. These are immune cells that are central to producing an immune response to pathogen. And also there's protein in there that stimulates suppressor cells, which regulate those immune responses. And we've seen it work. The first person that it worked on was the first person we tried it on, who was my sister, who had developed small cell lung cancer, small cell or oat cell carcinoma. And it's among the fastest growing tumors and among the most intractable tumors that are known. And it's the kind of lung cancer that people get and die. They're diagnosed and then they die a few weeks later. And when my sister finally went to the doctor, she had visible tumor on her neck, and she was frail. She had lost weight to around 85 pounds. And the doctor told her that there was no hope and that she had less than 30 days to live. So he did offer her one possibility if she took high doses of chemotherapy, that it might extend her life a few weeks or maybe even a couple months, because small cell lung cancer is receptive to certain chemotherapies. So you can really reduce the tumor load on someone with small cell, but then it's only effective for a period of time, and the tumor comes back insensitive to that chemotherapy and just runs rampant. So she chose to take the chemo, and I knew of this thymus product, and I persuaded her to take it along with that. And at the time, the dosage or the serving size was 1 microgram, and I stabilized it on communion wafers. A lot of people know what communion wafers are, little pieces of bread that the Catholics use for taking communion. I stabilized the protein on the communion wafers, and she took 1 wafer a day. Well, she went into remission about 120 days out, and she, throughout that period of time, never had her white count drop below normal. And her doctor was thoroughly amazed at how well she recovered, particularly because of how frail her condition was on the onset. And she survived for 4 years. She relapsed, and sadly, she was a 3-pack-a-day smoker from the time she was 17, 18 years old. And sadly, when she went into remission, she resumed smoking. And that is probably highly likely what triggered her relapse. But since then, my dad developed prostate cancer. He was 70 when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he didn't like any of the treatment possibilities. And I got him to start on wafers. This is before it was developed into the powdered product that we know of today. And he was taking a wafer a day, and I told him that he was more likely to die with the prostate cancer than of the prostate cancer. His PSA count, which is how the antigen they use in a blood test to measure the amount of prostate cancer in a person's body, his PSA count started dropping within 2 weeks after he started on BioPro, and he kept his PSA down in the low single digits, 2, 3, 4 tops, throughout the rest of his life. He ended up dying at age 83 of stroke, and my promise to him proved correct. And since that period of time, there are all number of stories of people with cancer, but the most prevalent stories are people who get cold and flu reasonably often, such as in this period of time that we're coming in, the flu season. People who get sick all the time start taking BioPro, and then they don't get sick. And it goes back to my point that the cardiologist made yesterday, that people who take BioPro tend to stay healthy or get healthy. And,
by the way, I'm going to interrupt you just a second. Dr. Warren just came in, so he's in the audience now.
Good. Hello, Art.
And to show you how quickly he learns, he's already been giving props to people. He's got this thing figured out. It's pretty cool. He was clapping for you as you were talking there.
You can go ahead and take a seat, Dad. If
you certainly can. Anyway, here he comes. I'll click on him, Mike. We both got it at the same time. So Rick, let's stay on. Before we go to the healthy side and talk about people using BioPro-Plus, or really this immune system booster from a natural thymic protein. Let's talk a little more about sort of cancer diagnosis and such, and not that we're any of us doctors here, and we're not given medical opinions, but we're just given what we understand. And you talked about PSA levels. I know of so many stories of men who got diagnoses for elevated PSA levels. Dr. Warren must be struggling to get in here. Maybe his signal's not so great. He was attempting to, and now we lost him. But they end up with seeing high PSA levels. They go in and get another opinion. Another PSA test comes back, and it's not as high. And then they even do it a third time, and maybe it's back up or something. And then they get different opinions from people with diagnoses. Is that, or how to treat. And they'll say, do chemo or do radiation or even surgery. And yet I've heard many friends and doctors say that they also then go to alternative care physicians, and they say, you don't have a tumor that we see. It could be that those PSA levels, just as you said, are probably not going to be what kill you, but you're probably going to die with it. And so here's my quick point in question. I feel like, and I think I mentioned this last time, that probably cancer is a lot more prevalent than we think. And I might even go as far as saying that all of us have some level of cancer cells. And yet most of us have sufficient enough immune system response that it's either killing them, just like the chemo or whatever would do, or it's suppressing them to where they're not getting viral in the way that they grow. What's your thought about that?
Well, what you're expressing there is consistent with a story I know of one of my favorite ball players. Everybody knows Mickey Mantle, and Mickey was a lifetime smoker. And can you imagine how well he would have done if he didn't drink and smoke? he was something anyway. Well, late in life, he was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver, and his liver was failing. And he got on a transplant list, and his number came up, and he received all the diagnostic tests for a transplant. And one of the primary qualifications for a transplant is you cannot have cancer or other deleterious diseases, because there might be people behind you on the list who could fare better with the transplant. And he was tested and tested negative for anything like that. Well, he received the transplant, and any transplant patient needs immune suppressive drugs to prevent rejection of the transplant. Within 10 days of the transplant and receiving the immune suppressive drugs, he was diagnosed with terminal small cell lung cancer. So he went from 0 to terminal in a few days. The reason, I think, is that throughout his life, he was developing those tumor cells, but his immune system was adept enough to prevent him from developing noticeable tumor. As we all know, every living being, any heartbeat in the animal kingdom develops tumor cells every day, but the immune system suppresses those. What Ricky Mantle, his immune system, suppressed that lung cancer until his immune system was shut down by the immune suppressive drugs. He died a short time after his diagnosis.
That's a great story. And for those who came out a little bit later there, what Rick was talking about was Mickey Mantle, and who had had a liver problem that he had a transplant for. Dr. Warren, what's your thoughts on that? And again, what we're talking about here, and we've got several people that have come on. Hello to all you guys. And by the way, we'll open up a seat here at some point if you'd like, guys would like to come on and ask either Dr. Warren or Rick a question. So I'll jump off here actually after I talk. Real quick, Dr. Warren, give your answer to that question also.
I think Rick's right on. The immune system, even if it's not 100% active, is going to suppress some of those cancer cells for a period of time. But when it's completely taken away, there's no resistance by the body to overcome them. It'll set up housekeeping. So, yeah, I agree with Rick 100% on that one.
Well, we have immune cells that live in our body for decades, and they're developed as they develop. No one really knows when, but it's a phenomenon referred to as memory immunity. So as long as we have that immunity, we see people, even people who have, lifestyles that shouldn't support good health, live for a long time. And that's their memory immunity that carries on. Well, for the less fortunate, they might, through trauma or exposure to atmospheric things, or even X-rays or other types of radiation, or through by developing an illness, lose their memory immunity. And when that happens, they don't have anything to back it up, and then they get sick. If they theoretically use BioPro-Plus, they can restore or maintain that immunity and develop even new memory immunity, and keep from getting sick.
Yeah, for sure, Rick. And we found, we just had a recent case, Michael, I don't know, maybe you've talked about it before I joined, but talked about a young...
No, I haven't. I was going to go to it. Go ahead, Deb.
We had a case with a young baby boy, 20 months old, had been suffering from chronic ear infections and sinusitis for at least refresh my memory if you have to, Michael, 3 or 4 months.
No. The prior 9 months. So this was last month. basically November 1st, he started on the BioPro. But prior to that, for 9 months, this little 20-month-old baby boy was literally every other week they were going into the doctors. They could not figure out what was causing this ear infection, chronic ear infection, chronic sinusitis. They put tubes in his ears. He had that surgery done. Could not get him over. He's still on a low-dose antibiotics. They started him November 1st, and he went on the regular protocol that we call maintenance on our website. Was taking the BioPro-Plus 100, which is the powder packet form, and he was too small to have them. He couldn't pour it under his tongue because it would cause him to choke or whatever. So they mixed it in yogurt and they feed it to him every day. And then every Sunday morning, they take the vial of the BioPro 500 and they give it to him and he drinks it down. They put it in his water and he drinks it. And he, anyway, long story short, in 1 month, he has not had one recurrence of any infection. He has not been back to the doctor for the whole month. That's the first time that they've gone more than 2 weeks without going to the doctor since he was in the last 9 months. Very, very significant. What was exciting to me is that we got a small child here. We've been focusing with this product on cancer and HIV and some really prominent, terrible diseases, which they are. But the fact is, for a young parents of a 20-year-old or 20-month-old baby boy, that's just as devastating what he was going through. Constantly crying, just upset all the time because his poor little guy, his ears were hurting, he couldn't breathe. Anyway, we got him through that. As the father relayed to me a couple days ago, what if they would have found out about this product 9 months ago? Would he have had to have the surgery? Would he have been going through all this trouble that he's going through? And because now he's not going through any of it, he's going back to being a great, happy little baby, the way they envisioned their child to be. So it's really, really exciting. And that just goes to what Rick was saying about this product. It doesn't matter what the disease or the ailment is. The immune system is the only answer to it. And by making your immune system work properly or helping it, we're not making it work properly, we're simply helping it or aiding it by putting a protein back into the body that our bodies produce naturally. It's really, really exciting. It's really dynamic. And we're just excited to share about it. So anyway, Dad, I didn't mean to jump on you there, but
that's good.
Since I talked to him, I kind of had a little backstory to it and understood what they were going through. And he is just so thankful. I mean, he called and he ordered the 3-month auto ship program, and the rest is history, so to speak, with him. He just is, he feels it's just an amazing, amazing product. And that's only after 30 days. So it is exciting to see what it does. We've got lots of those types of stories. It's now getting the message out. So,
well, the thing that I wanted to bring up in conjunction with that, and Rick can expand on this a little bit, is it's never too young to start. If the immune system is not started properly from the colostrum that they're receiving as a newborn, you're going to get childhood cancers as well, leukemia and so forth. And after this experience, we got to look into maybe even that last trimester prepartum. If mothers go on the BioPro that last trimester prepartum, they can possibly increase the immunity in their baby and dodge some of these bullets after he's born. So what do you think of that,
That really
Rick?
makes a lot of sense, because if you know how the whole nutritional transfer works through the placenta, and I don't know everything, I know something about it. It only makes sense that immunity will transfer, and even through mother's milk, could be fortified by the mother's immune system being up to speed, let's say. And it could help the baby in an immediate way, maybe help the baby pass the colostrum stage and into infancy by bolstering the immune system of the fetus before it ever breathes air.
Well, we don't recommend the first trimester, obviously, but I think the third trimester is a great indication to use the product.
I agree 100%.
So, yeah, there's a lot of different areas that we can delve into, but this young lad, and we had the similar situation with another girl. She was 5 years old. The doctors couldn't diagnose. Well, they made a tentative diagnosis of Crohn's disease or childhood leukemia, and her skin was as white as a sheet of paper when she went in there. And we put her on in those days, we didn't have the BioPro-Plus, we just had the 100. We didn't have the 500. We put her on 4 packets a day, and in 6 months, her symptoms changed, and she's healthy and mother of 2. So this product is a great asset in helping to restore a compensated immune system. No doubt about it.
I just saw the warning from the CDC in the last couple of days about the flu season, and it's predicted that 25 to 30,000 people will die from the flu this year in the United States. Now, most of those people are immune compromised, elderly or immune compromised people. But doesn't it make complete sense, and in a total healthcare sense also, to prevent the necessity for hospitalization and heroic medical treatments for people getting sick, to prevent the flu or to reduce the symptoms of the flu, the reaction to the flu, by using BioPro-Plus, and possibly save many, many lives in the process.
Yep. As a sidelight, and this interests you, Wayne, I read an article today where the island of Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii, they have an outbreak of dengue fever, and they're trying to figure out how to keep the fever from spreading to the other islands. And they have had a lot of sick people, and we were talking about dengue fever last time, and that's another area where I think we can make a big impact if we could get some kind of application going.
Yeah, and just to give you an update on that, Dr. Warren, the connections that we have over in Pakistan, who were the ones that were affected. And as a matter of fact, Hamza just came on here. I just saw him jump on. They're going to get us some doctors' names that we can talk to over there that they think would be very open to looking at some alternatives and it's a common problem. And I didn't realize it, but Derek, the fellow who told us about it last week, he actually had dengue several years ago, and he was not happy with the treatment process, and it didn't seem to him like they were really clear that what they were doing was really going to be that helpful. And so anyway, I think that's really encouraging.
We gotta see. Excuse me. There's a question here about getting any more light on Rick.
Much.
It helped a little. It helped some, Rick. So it certainly does something.
RE Note Exchange. I don't know. They wanted to have some more information on Rick, I guess.
Well, that's RE Note Exchange is Bob Christador, who's also our partner, and he uses a variety, so he's here. And actually, his son Dave's on with us right now. Hey, Dave, I gave him a shout over the chat. Let's stay on dengue just a bit, because I don't really know that much about it. And you talked about it last time, Dr. Warren, but why don't you give another little recap about why you believe that BioPro-Plus would be something that might work with dengue? So to talk about the disease as you understand it a little bit and what could happen.
Well, it's a mosquito transmitted disease, and it's caused by a virus. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but through the cell-mediated immune system, it's the only way the body has of identifying viruses and taking them out of the system through our CD4, CD8
That's
cells.
right. The CD4 cell has to identify the viral infected cell and then report out and rally CD8 cells to come and kill it. And that's really the only way. There are some antiviral drugs now, but they still are not effective without an immune response, or they're maybe semi-effective. But
so if you don't have, if the body doesn't have the ability to take it out through this process, you're going to suffer with the disease for 10 days, 2 weeks until the virus wears itself out.
Very dangerous disease too.
And maybe have a relapse or even worse.
And other chance of other opportunistic infections causing even more trouble.
Yeah, as the virus takes over the body, then you got your streps and staphs and all the other bad guys, the bacteria coming in and ending up with a pneumonia or whatever.
And so, also a spiraling down.
I have, although we've never used it in that particular disease, I do feel confident that it would make an impact.
Let me throw out another disease that we have a challenge with, and I don't think it's as much of a problem with you guys in California, but it seems to become a problem here because it's bug-induced, mosquito-induced, which is West Nile, and then associated with that, there are meningitises that are carried by the mosquitoes that we have in this area, at least. And so, what would the impact potentially from BioPro-Plus be for a West Nile diagnosis that someone might have?
Yeah, the same thing applies, Wayne. Okay. Same thing applies to any virus. Even cancers some cancers that are caused by viruses, you're going to help to eliminate or fight better with a cell-mediated system. Okay. Without the cell-mediated system, you don't have that ability in your body to even put up a fight. You're relegated to the humoral system, and as it gets rampaging, then you get other problems. But that's why the body was designed this way, and all we're doing is trying to get it back in a homeostatic state so that it is more apt to take these things out naturally and give the body a chance to regain its health.
You should also mention that the humoral side of the immune system cannot function without the cell-mediated side driving it. The CD4 cell begins all the production of antibodies in B cells. It still starts with the CD4 cell. So you don't get a good and maybe no defense against bacteria without cell-mediated immunity as a companion or as a beginning of it.
Guys, do you see the question here? Hamza again, who's back on today, asked about a disease, or a question, actually not a disease, about ferritin, a protein produced in mammalian metabolism which serves to store in the tissues. And Hamza, if you want, Mike actually jumped off here for a second, and actually says, is there any alternative health that can reduce ferritin level? So is ferritin, guys, this is a question for Rick and Dr. Warren, is it something that's problematic? Obviously, he wouldn't have asked about it otherwise, I would think.
Well, it is problematic as if it gets to be an excess, and that's excess iron in the body is a definite problem. I don't know of anything that would reduce ferritin at this point in time, but we can do some research and find out. But right now, I don't know of anything. I know this, that people that have high ferritin levels better not have any iron in their diet. That's for sure. Have you heard of that, Rick?
No, I haven't heard of anything that helps. But I'm with you. I can look into it too.
And I'm sure that the doctor said. Women especially, they feed women iron indiscriminately, which can be later on in life as they go into menopause. It can be a problem because iron is stored and reused in the body, so it can be a toxicity level eventually. So, but
Wayne was asking Hamza if he wanted to sit in, and I think he's got it. His question answered. It looks like so. You may want to come back in, Wayne.
Yeah, Hamza was asking the question.
Yeah, I came back. It looks like he says that he's gotten his answers. With something like a mineral, either deficiency or excess that would cause toxicity, iron obviously being a mineral, cobalt, much more toxic, cadmium, and so on. Would there be any role? What's the role that the immune system plays in dealing with acute toxicity sorts of responses?
You want to address that, Rick? I don't think anything.
Okay.
No, I don't think there is, except protection against opportunistic infections that could result from a person being toxic. Maybe a restorative, could have a restorative effect, but no direct effect on the toxicity.
Those electrolyte toxicities or heavy metal toxicities have to be taken out by detoxification, and probably chelation is your best bet. Using something like EDTA to detoxify the body and take those heavy metals and other metals out of your body.
That makes sense. I actually studied heavy metal toxicity in aquatic animals back in my graduate school days, and the problem with a lot of the lesser vertebrates or invertebrates, particularly invertebrates, is they don't have the ability to regulate. So they'll accumulate toxic metals, and ultimately, their acute response will just be immediate death. I mean, you don't know what level that they'll accumulate them to, and then they'll just die instantly. What people don't realize, don't want to go into this too much, but because they're accumulating them, they can reach really high levels in the tissue that we would be eating if we were eating lobsters or mollusks of any kind, clams or snails and such. So those metal levels can become real problematic. Anyway, jumping back into...
Well, I see that Hamza still got questions. His brother, I guess, is at 10,000.
And remember, this is the same brother that I think he was talking to us back last week.
It had phacelemia.
Yes, correct.
Right.
So,
and that might be part of the problem. I mean, the high ferritin level might be causing part of the problem. Phacelemia being a type of immune anemia, Rick. Are you familiar with that disease?
No, I'm not.
And I brought up the fact that we've had great results with thrombocytopenia, getting the platelet counts up with our BioPro. And the question was last week about whether the BioPro would help to bring the red blood cell count up. And I said, I don't know. The only thing we can do is try, see what happens.
Well, we've seen that happen in some cancer patients who become anemic due to chemotherapy, and we've seen the red cells come back. So you get and all I can think of is that the function of it is the signaling effect that the CD4 cell has when a low count is developed in a blood cell. The CD4 signals the bone marrow to produce those progenitor cells. And I think that might be the function that's going on. Mm-hmm. So it's like I said before, you don't have a direct effect of stimulating immunity to fight toxicity, but the effects of the toxicity might be a suppression of the immune system in some way, and BioPro-Plus might help that because it helps stimulate the cells and restore immunity.
Well, that makes sense.
So guys, Hamza said that he also believes that the transfusions themselves, they probably, they're putting this fresh new blood might be having the elevated levels of iron in it. And it's the transfusions even that are causing his iron levels, his ferritin level to go up.
And that's another part. That is a direct possibility. Yeah.
So let's transition a little bit. We've got about 10 minutes left here, and as we know, a lot of our viewers come on replays, so we'll try to get into a couple other topics that I think our audience would enjoy. Rick talked a little bit about when he met you, Dr. Warren, and he gave his perspective. So I'm curious now because he was able to talk about the circumstances and the house sitting. But then he went ahead the 20 years when you guys first talked about BioPro-Plus, and he said it was in a Rexall drugstore. So I'm going to really put you on the line, and we'll see how it corresponds with Rick's. He said you guys started talking about it, and you spent X amount of additional time in the store. About how long did you guys spend talking about it in the store?
Man, you really tested my memory, but I don't know how long. It was such an intriguing discussion that I lost all track of time when I get into those kind of things. But I'll bet we were at least there an hour. I don't remember exactly, but I'll bet we were at least there an hour talking about this, and probably missed an appointment or two.
Well, I'll tell you, you just hit on the other piece of it. He said 2 hours, so he was a little longer than you. But he also said that he was in trouble, or maybe you both were, with your wives because you were in there so long.
Exactly. I was just going to bring that up. I can remember that a little bit. You know, a happy wife is a happy life. And I think we stood our wives up that night. And but, you know, over 59 years, she's getting used to it.
So, Rick, tell us a little bit. I was intrigued before. Why was using the wafers that you were doing back before the product was developed into a powder form? What was happening that was bioenabling there? Was it a reaction with the wafer itself? I'm assuming that. And did you go through some trial and error to figure that out? Again, that's just kind of the interesting kind of story that sometimes people are intrigued in.
Well, first of all, I got to apologize. I'm not sitting in the dark. It's actually daylight. There's two walls of windows in this room and a bright light, but for some reason I look like I'm sitting in the dark.
You do look a little dark there.
Proteins are fairly fragile molecules, and they're stable when they're frozen, and they're stable when they're bound to a substrate. So in order to keep it stable, to be able to ship it around when it, and not have it frozen, I demonstrated that we could drip it onto a communion wafer, and the protein would bind to the starch in the bread and remain stable for a period of time. So we had to spend some protein to demonstrate it. And then, so we did. We dripped it on some communion wafers because they're small and transportable. And then demonstrated through a couple of assays that the protein stayed active because it was stabilized on that starch. And then that progressed to the powder, eventually demonstrating that the protein could be freeze-dried to stabilize it. But then it's very, very small amount. If you think of 100 micrograms in a packet that contains 400 milligrams, it's a very, very small amount of powder. But we found that we could freeze dry the protein and then titrate it into maltodextrin and keep it stable and actually for a long period of time, stable and transportable.
So stay on that for a minute, Rick, because that's, again, an interesting story. And both of you, Dr. Warren and Rick, go back and forth on this if you'd like. Talk about your process, what I'll call your experimental research process as you took the product from its early stages, and let's just say from the form it was in when you were putting it onto the wafers, and now taking it through to a powder, and then even how you thought about taking that and turning it into the 500 so that it could be used that way. And it's not so much maybe the technical story, but sort of what did you do? Were you doing this in a lab? Were you doing it, how was the setting? People are always interested. And even the term formulation, you're obviously not inventing something here, you're formulating. And so you obviously did that by mixing things. And you talked about multidextrin there and so on. But tell us a little bit of that story. I think that would be interesting to folks.
Well, Herb was early on demonstrating with horses, and we brainstormed a little bit what would be a viable dosage level for a horse, being 1,100 pounds compared to a human. And he started demonstrating with the horses by using different concentrations in liquid. So he was transporting frozen vials around back and forth to the racetrack and to the stables to demonstrate with the horses. And that was really the genesis of the higher dose packaging, the higher dose ideas. That was all Herb's brainchild. And then that evolved into, because the frozen vials are cumbersome, and it's another sort of brainwave that has to run in the background, because you have to transport these vials and keep them frozen. So then we, over time, demonstrated that we could just freeze dry the protein and then titrate it into the zinc gluconate, which is the way it is with the 500 and 1,000 vials. And then through Herb's ingenuity, he combined it with the silver solution, which really is formulating, as you say, into a really dynamic product, a 1-2 punch. And that's really trial and error and thinking on your feet that Dr. Warren has done to bring it to that point into really, really terrific formulation and product.
Dr. Warren, give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that was basically how I had to get a higher concentration, because we were pouring 5 and 10 packets of the powder into a horse's mouth, and it was very cumbersome, and they're only getting half of it, blowing the rest of it out. And so we originally used the powder and special water that Rick had when he was originally to develop the powder itself before it was freeze dried. And then I came across this nanotech silver, which a friend of mine and Rick as well developed a machine to make this nanotech silver, which is a whole nother story, but it is so much more efficient and potent than the regular colloid or chelated silvers, or the ionic silver solutions, that I said, well, let's give this a try, because if we can use the silver as a antibacterial or surface activant to help kill any bacteria on the surface, because we were dealing with a lot of strep at the racetrack, hot strep infections, bacterial strep infections. That with the BioPro may be a real 1-2 punch, and turned out to be very synergistic and very, very effective. So that's how it evolved to what it is now. And consequently, we then try to figure out the dose for humans and titrate it down, and that's where we come up with the BioPro 500, BioPro-Plus 500 concentration. And Mike's got a picture of the box there. And it's turned out to be very, very effective as we have been talking about these various cases that we've been using it on. So I think that, and here again, and Rick can correct me if not, I think we're just scratching the surface of what we're going to end up, what the end up result's going to be with this product over a period of years, what we're going to be able to accomplish.
So I agree. It's been a 20-year learning experience, and we learn more every day from people who use it, and from demonstrating in different processes with different complaints that people have. Health complaints that people have. We learn something new every day with dosages and frequencies, and with terms over a period of time how people should use the product.
For example, Wayne, there's a whole industry that is devastated by a virus. The cruise boat industry, cruise ship industry, that norovirus, it'll completely ruin somebody's vacation when it gets started on a ship.
Okay.
And I have no doubt in my mind that we could stop those epidemics of infection overnight with this product. So I mean, there's so many different uses, and Rick's already hit the influenza thing. Those enteric and influenza type viruses, coronaviruses and other types of viruses are definitely in the bullseye of this product. I mean, we can take them out. It's just a matter of if you can get the treatment started, get the dose into them before the viremia really hits its maximum, you'll stop it in its tracks. Otherwise, you're going to probably have suppressed symptoms, and you get through it a little less angst as you would if you had to go without it. So there's a whole lot of applications that we haven't even scratched the surface on.
Sounds good, guys. And Mike, you let me know if you think you're right, but we're right at our 5 o'clock time here, or 4 o'clock there in California. And we want to be sort of respectful for mainly our replay audience. Dave just asked a question, and maybe once you give an answer there, you ask if that was the website for the product. And then also, why don't you sort of wrap it up, Mike, and let either Rick or your dad give any final thoughts that they might have. And if anybody else has got questions out there, you might throw those out now. And I actually have another meeting that I'm going to run to, so I'm going to jump off. Guys, it was always awesome to be with you guys. And Mike, good to be with you. And
Thanks,
we'll be
Wayne.
talking about marketing. And just for everybody out there, we do believe so strongly that this product is something that can be a game changer. And we're obviously had the last 2 of these labs where we've been talking to the 2 formulators here, the 2 guys that have put this together. As we move ahead in weeks to come, we're probably going to talk more broadly about just other immune system situations and how to improve and other alternative health sorts of things. But we're not going to be shy about talking about BioPro-Plus. We clearly believe that it is that product that could change a lot in terms of of people's lives. And these 2 guys are really committed. You heard them say earlier, if this is a question they couldn't answer, they were going to research it. They mean that. And so anybody who's got questions, if you're watching this as a replay, you can put your questions on. Any question that comes in the replay is something that we actually will be able to get, and we'll come and we'll answer them for you. And on the website, you can reach out to us. We actually have operators that will answer live bodies, that will answer calls if you call. If you have a question that obviously the operator wouldn't be able to answer, we'll make sure to get them to Dr. Warren or to Rick. And Mike, I think that I'll just kind of jump off there, let you go on. And it's been fun being with you guys again. And I'm going to jump off, and I'm actually going to a climbing gym. So I've got to head my way over there and take this old body and climb up a wall. So
Have some fun.
Well, it's nice to see you, Wayne. Take care.
Good to see you
Good
guys.
talking, Wayne.
You bet.
Have a good evening.
You bet. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, with that, he kind of set it a real good note, and we aren't going to be bashful about BioPro-Plus, and we believe it's for everybody. As we kind of talked a little bit about today, from infants to 90-year-olds with cancer. Anytime there's an immune repression going on, you need to get your immune system back working properly, and that's what BioPro does, and that's what we're here for. To answer your question, I think it was Dave, is that the website? That is one of our sites that I think Bob put up. The actual website is, I'll put it up here in a minute, but it's alternative-health-concepts.com. Let me put that up right now. That's actually the website, Dave, if you wanted to go to the website and review some different information, read our blogs, sign up for our blog. You can.
There's a question there. How does one, excuse me, Michael, there's a question about how does one purchase it? So go through that with them.
Well, either one of those 2 links that are up, either biopro-plus.com they can purchase, or they can purchase it on the website. We have more items on the website besides the BioPro. That's the prominent items. And just for those of you that don't know, I kind of held up a picture, but we have 2 different products of BioPro. We have the BioPro 100. As you can see, it's the green there. In this little box, when you receive it, you'll get 30 little packets like this. Where is it? There it is. 30 packets, and in those packets, that was what Rick was talking about, is the powder. The BioPro 500 is a more concentrated version that was developed about 5 years ago, and the BioPro 500 comes in, let me see, I can open it up here, take one out and show you. In this little packet here is 2 vials. I don't know if you can really see it on the camera here, but there's 2 vials. One that has the BioPro powder in it, and one that has the solution, the silver solution that Rick talked about. And you simply take one apart, pour the silver solution into the powder, shake it up, and then just put it in your mouth, swish it around for a couple minutes, and then swallow it. We do that once a week, and we take a packet a day of this every day as a maintenance program. And then we're just getting ready to put on a little more intensive protocol, if you will, for somebody going through a more serious disease process, whether it be cancer, HIV, hepatitis C, somebody that has really got an immune situation that's really repressed, that they need to really bolster it. And we'll be coming out with that shortly, and actually probably this next week. It'll be on the website. Best thing is to check with the website there. Go there, answer any questions. If you have questions, get it in there. I would like to, only people will be able to see it, but we did write my dad and I put together a little book, a little ebook. It's called The Secrets of Immune Recovery. And I'm going to put up this little link for you, and anybody watching this can go and click on this link, and they'll get you can register and get our free book. It'll be sent right over to you via email. It's a good little book on recovery of the immune system and how you can get your immune system back operating quickly and effectively, like it was designed to do, so that you can fight off any pathogens, diseases, or cancers, or anything like that that might be affecting you. And Rick, I think you're losing your camera, buddy, because it's just getting darker.
There must be an adjustment for the camera, but if you look, it's light outside.
Isn't that wild?
But it's ultra sensitive to less light.
There's a question up here about Tiger Woods. Would he heal faster if he took BioPro? What was his? Do you know what his problem is?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but I don't know what the problem is.
If it's any immune situation, it would definitely help.
Well, even if it's a wound, the BioPro will help the wound healing process, and both pre and post operative as well. So,
before he goes into that, Rick, I know that you're probably running tight on time. Also, is there any final words you'd like to say if you need to leave? If not, then you're welcome to stay. Obviously.
I actually want to ask the mystery guest. It's great that he's in the dark, because I think if he answers this question, everyone will enjoy it. I wanted to ask this question. I started in the beginning. No, he announced today that his 3rd back surgery, and I don't know exactly which one of his discs are in question, but he's on his 3rd back surgery in 2 years, and so now he is recovering. The only thing he's allowed to do is walk, and that he has no idea when he's going to be back playing golf again. And
well, answer your question, Robert, is yes, it will help. The only difference is the problem is he should have had the BioPro a month before he had the surgery, and after the surgery, and it had healed 3 or 4 times faster because he'd have been generally more healthy. But it's never too late. Even some of the tissue he's got now are still probably pretty well stressed and distressed, and it will help him.
So we need to reach out to everybody in the audience to go, 7 degrees of separation for everybody else in the world. So somebody out there has a connection to Tiger Woods' management team, and we need to let him know that we've got something that can get him back on the golf course quicker. We all miss him. We want to see him play, and we're sorry that he's hurting the way he is.
If you didn't notice, Bob's a golfer.
I have golf all over the place, including right outside my back door here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's been
well.
Great.
As far as my summation goes, Michael, I know I look at the body as a large computer that has various running parts, and the immune system is probably the master controller of that computer, but sometimes it lacks the software to run properly, And you know, when your computer don't run right, you get that black screen and it crashes, you're in trouble. And a lot of people's lives are that way. They're getting the black screen and crashing. And maybe that's what's happened with the Rick screen. I don't know. But anyhow,
I need a 12-year-old to show me how to work my camera.
what I want to get to is BioPro-Plus is the software to run that hardware called our body. And without the BioPro-Plus, especially over 40, our body's not going to run properly. And as we found out with this 20-month-old baby, sometimes we're born with a distressed immune system as well and need the help even from the beginning. So there's no age constraints. There's no disease processes that it won't help. And that's my feeling.
Somebody else just wants to ask a question, so I'm going to bow out and let him call in.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Rick, how about you? We first of all really like to thank you for coming on and taking your time today. Rick
I
is.
appreciate you asking me. I'm sorry I'm sitting here. It looks like I'm in the dark. I'm really not.
We hear you.
I need to find somebody who can show me how to work the camera properly.
I'll get you out of here.
It might be. You just started. You're getting darker and darker, so it might be you got an internal problem with your camera.
Yeah,
That could be.
could be. Definitely.
No.
Thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, Rick, you've just been a huge part of what's going on with alternative health concepts, and you know that, and you mean the world to both of us, my father and I, and just anything you need, we can do for you. Please let us know. But thanks again for being here, and we look forward to having you on more of these, because I really believe that your story is our story, if you will, and with this product, it's one key. It's not a silver bullet. It's not the magic bullet, but it is probably one of the most important keys to getting your body back as far as building your immune system goes. And we know that any disease starts with a strong immune system. And so thanks again, Rick, and really appreciate it. Dad, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm done.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, really appreciate your time tonight, and have a great rest of the week.
You too. Take care.
Okay.
Take care, Rick. Thanks.
Thanks again. We'll see you
See you
guys
later.
soon. Okay, bye-bye.